Hi, I'm Lacey. A few days after my sister handed our parents the keys to a brand new car, she sent me an invoice for the full amount, $60,000. Not as a joke, not as a mistake, just because I'm the responsible one. And when I showed up for Sunday dinner, no one said a word. Not about the gift I gave, not about the debt she dumped on me. How does a family get so comfortable pretending one child doesn't exist? Tell me, have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace, even when it hurt you the most? I first saw it on a Wednesday, sandwiched between a quarterly report and a vendor receipt. Subject line, FYI invoice from Marla. No greeting, no punctuation, just a PDF attachment with my name in the top left corner and a total balance of $60,000. There was one line in the email body. Hey sis, I know you've got this. You've always been the responsible one. I stared at it longer than I should have. I didn't blink. I didn't move. For a second, I wondered if it was some elaborate joke, some twisted attempt at irony. But Marla doesn't do irony. She does spectacle. She does optics. And now, she does debt. I logged off without replying, walked to the break room and poured myself a cup of lukewarm coffee, letting the bitterness sit on my tongue longer than necessary. I didn't scream. I didn't vent. I just stood there letting the heat in my palm burn through the mug, letting it anchor me in a moment that didn't feel real yet. That Saturday, we had dinner, the usual family gathering. My parents' house smelled like rosemary and onions, and the dining table had the same old white lace cloth with a coffee stain near the middle. It had been there since I was a kid. No one bothered to replace it. Marla was in rare form, laughing too loud, gesturing too wide. She was telling some story about a friend's wedding in Paris, her voice dancing like it always did when she knew all eyes were on her. No one mentioned the car. No one mentioned the invoice. No one mentioned the trip to Italy. My envelope, the one with the tickets, the curated itinerary, the handwritten note explaining the surprise, was still there. Sitting on top of the fridge, face down. Mom ladled stew into our bowls and asked Marla if she wanted more bread. Dad chuckled at one of her punchlines and sipped his wine. I sat in silence, spoon untouched, hands curled in my lap. The silence wasn't empty. It was loaded, sharp, deliberate. After dessert, I stood up. I told them I had an early start the next morning, which was true but irrelevant. I just needed air. As I slipped my coat on near the front door, Marla called out from the kitchen, "Hey, let me know when you transfer the money, okay?" I paused for half a second, just enough for the air to catch, but I didn't turn around. Instead, I whispered to myself, so soft I could have been imagining it. Of course you expect that. Why wouldn't you? And then I walked into the night, coat unzipped, heart racing, something inside me shifting ever so slightly. It came at 1:17 a.m., like most things from Marla. Late, abrupt, and unnecessary. My phone buzzed once. A single text, no emoji, no greeting. Just, BTW, you're listed as guarantor on the car loan. Just FYI. Love you. Love you. The audacity of that phrase, hanging there like a smirk at the end of a punch. I sat up in bed, heart beginning to drum in my throat. Clicked the attachment. PDF document. My full name, my address, my social. Tied to a $60,000 loan for a car I didn't buy, didn't want, and certainly didn't agree to finance. She hadn't asked. She didn't even tell me. Until now. Because of course, in her world, asking was optional when it came to me. I didn't respond. I just turned the screen over and stared at the ceiling in the dark. I wasn't shocked. Not anymore. I was something else. Heavier. Like betrayal had calcified into expectation. The next morning, there was an envelope propped against my apartment door. Thick. No return label. But I knew the handwriting. I brought it inside and sat down on the floor with it, back against the kitchen cabinets, legs stretched across cold tile. Inside was everything. The trip to Italy, the gift I'd poured 3 months into, printed boarding passes, a full itinerary, hotel confirmations, my handwritten note, still folded neatly, still unread. There was no thank you card, no apology, no scribbled comment saying they couldn't accept it. Just the contents, perfectly repacked, like a returned order from a store they never meant to shop at. I placed it on the counter. Didn't cry, didn't call. They hadn't returned the trip. They'd returned me. By late afternoon, I was standing over the stove, stirring tea without really seeing the water boil. The envelope sat where I'd left it. I hadn't moved it. I couldn't touch it again. I opened my laptop and began researching refund policies. It felt surreal, canceling a dream like it was a subscription I forgot I'd signed up for. Out of habit, I checked Instagram. Marla was live. Cocktail in one hand, oversized sunglasses in the other, laughing with someone out of frame. Caption, "We bounce back, baby." I clicked away. They've made their choice. I whispered aloud, not to the room, but to whatever part of me was still waiting for someone to fight for me. I need to make mine. I opened a new email, drafted the subject line, "Trip cancellation request." The cursor blinked at me, waiting for the rest. I wasn't sure what I'd say yet, but I knew this. It wouldn't be an apology. They called it a conversation. I called it a setup. I arrived at the house with my coat still zipped. I hadn't planned to stay long. I thought maybe this would be a "we didn't handle things right" moment or an attempt at clarity, however hollow. What I got instead was 3 chairs already pulled around the living room, facing mine. They didn't even pretend. Marla sat perfectly still, legs crossed, tapping her nails against her phone without looking up. My father stood behind the couch, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a coffee he hadn't sipped. My mother sat in the middle, like a mediator who had already picked a side. "We've been thinking," she began. "It's only right that you help her finish the payments." Her voice was soft, like she was asking me to bring salad to Thanksgiving, not hand over $60,000 to fix a lie. Marla didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence was smug enough to take up space. "You were already going to spend that money," Dad added, voice firm but practiced. "Just redirect it. That's all we're saying." I looked at each of them. Then I asked one question, a real question. "Did anyone here ever ask what I wanted?" They blinked. Not a single reply. Not even a deflection. Just silence. My mother finally leaned forward, placing her hand on her knee like she was about to give advice, not a verdict. "Honey," she said, her smile full of pity, "you've always been strong. You don't need as much as she does." I felt it land somewhere under my ribs. A blow that didn't bruise skin but cracked something deeper. Something quieter. You don't need. You've always been strong. So we never had to give. So we could give it all to her. Suddenly I was 8 again, walking myself home from school because Marla had the flu and needed the car. I was 15, packing my own lunch while Mom made Marla pancakes on a Wednesday. I was 22, paying rent on time, while they co-signed her 3rd lease. It had never been about who earned more, who worked harder, who showed up. It had always been about who needed to be loved loudly, and who they assumed didn't need it at all. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. There was no point shouting into an echo chamber that only amplified one voice. Instead, I stood up. Marla glanced up from her phone, startled. My dad took a small step forward, maybe to stop me. My mother's eyes filled with that soft, unearned confusion, the look people wear when you break a script they've written for you. "That," I said quietly, "was the moment I stopped trying to be the good daughter and started trying to be free." I walked out before anyone could reply. The ping came in while I was formatting a budget spreadsheet. "Aunt Michelle, have you seen what your mom just posted?" I didn't answer right away. I opened Facebook instead. There it was, Helen Holloway, public and dramatic. No names. Just heartbreak. Just implication. Sometimes the people you count on the most are the ones who walk away first. My youngest is struggling, and all she needed was help. But family doesn't always show up when it's hardest. Some people forget what family means. She didn't have to say it. Everyone reading it already knew who she meant. The comment section lit up before I could even finish reading the caption. I always knew something was off about Lacey. "Money changes people. Poor Marla. That girl deserves better." I scrolled past names I hadn't seen since my 10th birthday party. Cousins, old neighbors, a woman I'd once babysat for. Not a single person had called me. Not one had asked what actually happened. They just nodded along, clicking heart and sad reactions like it was a prayer circle. My mother didn't need the truth. She needed attention, and she got it. I didn't cry. It was strange. how numbness could feel heavier than sadness. There was no sting, just pressure. A quiet ache behind my eyes that never quite asked to be released. I opened my laptop, started a new document, typed 2 words, "Let me," then deleted them, poured a glass of wine instead. Let them talk, let them speculate, let them craft their narrative out of thin air and forget they ever loved me. Maybe they never did, and if they wanted a villain, maybe it was time I stopped pretending to be the hero. I woke up to the same tightness in my chest. It had been there for days, clinging to me like damp air, like silence that didn't know how to leave. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, not peaceful, just paused. I sat on the edge of my bed with my laptop balanced on my knees, staring at the blank screen that had become my mirror lately. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. There was no fire left to burn, only ashes. So I wrote. A gift doesn't come with a bill. A sister doesn't come with a price tag. I didn't walk away from family. They told me to stand outside the photo. I read it once. I didn't tweak it. There were no hashtags, no dramatic flair, no links or explanations, just the truth. I clicked post, then turned off my notifications, then got dressed. I didn't have a destination. I just needed out of that apartment before the walls started answering back. I walked until I forgot how long I'd been walking, until my legs ached more than my heart. That night, I got a message request, a name I didn't recognize right away, Sarah T. She'd been Marla's roommate years ago. We hadn't spoken since college. Her message was simple, but it cracked something loose inside me. I saw your post. I used to live with Marla. She threw me a surprise birthday party once. Balloons, champagne, the whole deal. Then spent the next month reminding me how expensive it was, until I paid for half. You're not crazy. You're not alone. I read it 3 times, not because I didn't understand it, but because no one had said that to me in weeks, maybe months. Not crazy. Not alone. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Just knowing someone else had seen behind the same curtain was enough. I opened my post again, reread it slowly, then deleted it. Not because I regretted it, but because it had already done what it needed to do. It had spoken louder than I ever could, and now it didn't need to shout anymore. I closed my laptop, finished the rest of my wine, and let the night settle around me like a coat I'd finally grown into. Truth doesn't always fix things, but sometimes it stops the bleeding. The voicemail came mid-morning. I didn't see it until after lunch. I was folding laundry in the quiet when I saw the red dot blinking on my screen. One new message. For a second, I thought it might be work. Then I saw the number. Dad. His voice was gentle, like the last 10 days hadn't happened. Mom's been quiet. Things are tense. Maybe we could just have tea sometime, like old times. Like old times. I played it once, then again and again. Not because I didn't understand it the first time, but because I did. When I was a kid, he used to make me tea after report cards. It didn't matter if I got an A or a B, he'd warm the kettle, add too much honey, and tell me I was doing great. It wasn't perfect love, but it was warm. And in a house where silence was the loudest language, warmth meant something. But even back then, he never stepped in when Mom forgot I was in the room. He never stopped her when she told Marla she was the light of the family. He never told me I mattered. He just made tea and hoped that would be enough. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat at the table and stared at the wall, hands still tucked in the laundry basket. Later that afternoon, I pulled out the envelope he'd sent a few days earlier. Inside was a folded note. Simple, short. Hope you're doing okay. I'm proud of the woman you've become. No apology, no acknowledgement, just pride. Like he had earned the right to say it. I folded the note again and slipped it into the drawer next to the one Aunt Ray had sent. That drawer was getting crowded. I didn't write back, didn't call, didn't make tea. Some things don't need confrontation, they need closure. I opened my phone, stared at the voicemail icon one last time. Then I deleted it. Not in anger, not in spite, but because it was done. That night I lit a candle. Let the flame burn low and steady. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was just still. I didn't hang up on him. I just never picked up. That was enough. It started with a text from cousin Jamie. No context. Just, "Is Marla okay? I saw a tow truck outside her place." I didn't respond. Just unlocked my phone and tapped into the Facebook account I hadn't used in years. The one with no profile picture, no connections, no traces. There it was. A post from someone in her neighborhood group. "Looks like the Audi's getting repossessed. Hope everything's all right. Tough times." 3 payments missed. 3 months of pretending she could carry something she never intended to. She thought the silence meant immunity, that no one would notice. But the silence was just time collecting interest. I stared at the screen, then closed the app. Put the phone face down on the couch and lay back, letting my eyes settle on the ceiling. I didn't smile, didn't flinch, didn't feel triumphant. Some debts collect themselves. You don't have to lift a finger. That evening, Rachel called. Her voice was low, like she wasn't sure if she was betraying someone or delivering justice. Uncle Gerald pulled from his retirement. 30 grand, early withdrawal. There's a penalty. I didn't ask why. I didn't need to. I already knew. It wasn't for a medical emergency, not for a mortgage crisis or a family tragedy. It was for image, for control, to patch over a daughter's lie and a mother's pride. The same woman who once said, "This fund is our safety net. We only touch it for the unthinkable." Apparently this was it. Not the damage they'd caused, just the fear that people might find out. Even now, no apology, not even a note. The next morning, I took my usual walk, passing by the house I once called home. The Audi was gone. The driveway looked wider than I remembered, exposed. I didn't stop, didn't wave, didn't wonder who might be watching behind the blinds. Sometimes the silence after a collapse is louder than the screaming before it. Rachel called while I was making coffee. She didn't say hello. "You need to see the family group chat. It's chaos." I pulled the thread open on my phone, already bracing. The first message was from my mother, a long paragraph. She said things had gotten out of hand, that families should talk things out privately, that no one in this family was perfect, but some of us had forgotten how to forgive. It was more of the same, dressed in pleasantries, seasoned with guilt. And then, cousin Diana replied, "You've protected one daughter by erasing the other. I'm done pretending." The silence afterward only lasted a minute. Then the thread split wide open. Some agreed, some defended, some played mediator, and in between the messages, Marla stayed quiet. A few likes, no words. I didn't respond. I didn't watch it spiral. I just hit leave conversation and closed the app. Not out of anger, not even sadness, just peace. Sometimes it takes fire to show where the cracks were. That afternoon, a package arrived. No return address, no stamp, hand-delivered. Inside, a bundle of photos, faded but intact. Me at age 5 holding a stuffed animal. Me at 9 with a science fair ribbon. Me at 17 in my graduation gown, no one else in the frame. Tucked in the stack was a folded yellow page. It was Ray's handwriting. I hadn't seen it in years. "You were always enough, Lacey. We just didn't know how to say it. I should have." I read it once, then again, then sat down, letting the photos fall beside me on the couch. It didn't fix anything, didn't stitch the wound or undo the silence, but it reminded me that not everyone had forgotten. That night, I opened the drawer where I kept the other letters, slid Ray's in next to Dad's, left the drawer open. I didn't need their apology anymore, but it mattered that someone remembered. And now, I would finally go where no one needed to remember me, only to meet me. The envelope was already waiting when I opened my apartment door. No stamp, just slid under, like a whisper that didn't want to be heard. It was his handwriting again, neat, careful, like he'd always written when he didn't know how to say something out loud. Inside, just a folded note. "We never meant to hurt you, but we didn't stop it either. I hope someday we can talk again. Love, Dad." I read it once, didn't reread it, didn't look for a hidden meaning between the lines. There was no need. I placed it in the drawer next to Ray's letter. I didn't close the drawer. I left it slightly open, like a window cracked for air that may or may not come. This time, I didn't feel a twist in my chest. No urge to reply, no instinct to unpack the pain. This time, I felt done. At the airport, the world felt wider, not freer, just more spacious. I didn't walk fast, I wasn't running. I passed a family arguing near gate 34, a little boy tugging on his mother's sleeve. Someone sneezed, and someone else apologized for nothing. Life moved on, even when your heart didn't. I rolled my small suitcase through the security line, shoes off, laptop out, routine, but my mind was still. They made their decisions, I thought. I finally made mine. No one called, no texts. Marla posted a photo that morning, new dress, same stage smile. Caption, rising stronger. I didn't comment. I didn't roll my eyes. I deleted the app. Let her rise. Let them all write the ending they need. I had mine. On the plane, I sat by the window. A couple next to me whispered softly to each other, arms brushing but never moving away. I pulled out my phone, opened notes, typed one line. Next time I give love, it will be to someone who doesn't see me as convenient. The flight attendant offered water. I nodded, smiled, took a sip. They lost a daughter. I found myself. Maybe this story wasn't about villains or victims. Maybe it was about recognizing the moment you stop asking for permission to matter. For years, I tried to earn a seat at a table that was already set. Just not for me. I stayed quiet. I played along. I waited for fairness to arrive like an apology that never came. But peace? Peace didn't show up until I stopped waiting and started walking. You don't have to fight to prove your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is leave with your dignity intact. Have you ever had to choose peace over being understood? What would you have done in my place? If this story touched something in you, leave a comment with A or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't, let me know why. I want to hear your side too. If this video meant something to you, please subscribe to this channel so you won't miss the next story. Let's keep sharing, healing, and being human together.